Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and this evening we have one of our favorite guests on. We have Mr. Eric Harp. He is our certified professional fitness trainer and educator, and it's December 2022. So we're going to talk about reflections on this past year's current events and getting back to the basics in fitness. Good evening, Mr. Harp. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Mrs. Davis. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Always, always. Okay, so let's get right to it. 2022. It's December, Mr. Harp. I don't know where this year went. I don't know about you, but so much has happened. And so run us through some of the political hot button issues that are still that are still relevant right now.
The 2022 has been dominated by the January 6th committee.
Yes.
Public hearings, televised hearings that have gotten tremendous ratings. We've learned so much about what's happening. There's so much we still don't know, but yet we've learned so much about what has happened. A lot of things have come to light. This is the year of the midterm elections. And so a lot of people had to show up and show out. And some people just got showed out. So, people got exposed and exposed for the hypocrisy, exposed for some of the people that they are. And we've also watched overseas war.
Yeah.
Between Ukraine and Russia. And it was amazing to watch here in America how people take sides in that conflict. At the same time, we have one of our famous athletes, Brittany Griner, who was trapped, held in a fiasco of charges, prison sentencing, and the like. And just recently, she got prisoner swapped.
Yes.
And so welcome home to Brittany Griner. But at the same time, the mouthpieces that are talking are definitely talking about how this wasn't worth it. Because they wanted to get Paul Whelan, a CIA operative, and
Correct.
get him home. Now, and please forgive me. I wish the best for Paul Whelan's family and continue the best for them. But this was the deal on the table. Welcome home, Brittany Griner. And then I just want to finish up with that midterm election that we watched between Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock. I mean, thank you.
I know. Thank you, Jesus. Oh my goodness. Like, praise God.
Thank you.
But it was, he barely, he did better in the runoff, but still it was too close to call. You talk about January 6th, and yes, all year long we were enraptured by the committee hearings, the information that was coming out, who saw what. We learned what the president of the United States, who at the time was Donald Trump, he said, well, let's just walk down. They're not going to do anything to me. When your Secret Service has to tell you to turn around because there is a mob, and your vice president of the United States, these are two sitting elected officials. One is plotting a coup to overtake the country, overthrow the election because you don't like the result. We didn't like the result in 2016, but we didn't take to the streets and go, oh my God, Donald Trump is president. All these bad things are going to happen. And let me just say, and I was one of them. I said, this is not going to go well. It didn't. And we've seen that time and time again. However, you had a vice president who had nothing to do with the mob, as far as we know, and they erected a gallows. Thank you. A gallows. They were going to hang him because, in their own words, if he didn't decertify the election, we, the people, are going to throw it out. I'm like, you aren't the people. You're a mob of however many thousands of people there were there. And since then, we've seen several cases where you've had leadership that's been convicted. There's been purported legislation being proposed that any person who was involved in the January 6th event cannot run for office because, and I'm circling back around to some other things. So in Michigan, Governor Gretchen Whitmer was threatened by another gang of insurrectionists who thought, we're going to kidnap the governor. Let's let that hang for a second. This is 2022. We're going to kidnap the governor. And they wanted to kill her on live television also, but they had plans to her lake house. They were going to blow up a road, according to testimony that has come out in several of the court cases. And many of these people who said it's not a big deal were many of the same supporters of January 6th. And we've seen it, Mr. Harp. There have been folk who are running for office who are saying the election, it was stolen. And these are the same people. These are the same people who won an election and then lost after saying that. And now we're saying, see, I told you the election was stolen. No, you lost your seat because you are loony. The election was not stolen.
Well, that's what's happening in Arizona right now.
Exactly.
And the state of Arizona, I mean, in the last 5 years, has just become an embarrassment.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that they're one of the states that do things differently anyway.
Yes, they do.
You know, they're an independent state. The state of John McCain. John McCain's name rung bells in the halls of Congress.
Yes. He was a
with
veteran.
With that said, Arizona after the 2020 election, Arizona right now with the Carrie Lake, who was running for governor of that state, she lost her election. She's now claiming election fraud. She even said it before the election. She said, if I lose, it had to be fraud.
Right.
It would have to be fraud. Now she lost, says it is fraud, and is suing the election committee. Just going all out. Going all out. And election deniers. And now what this is turning into is every official. Is this what it's going to, every official is going to claim interference?
We've seen it. It's okay. We've seen
my voice together.
We've seen it in Florida. We've seen it in Georgia. We've seen it in several different states. We even had it here in Michigan, where, remember, when the last presidential election, they claimed that there was fraud in the city of Detroit. And they wanted to sue and throw all the votes out because they said those people in Detroit didn't vote properly. And it came to find out after a full investigation, a separate investigation was done, that everything was done honestly. And, you know, there was no malice or anything like that that was found. There was no fraud.
You know, what's tables are turning type of thing. Throughout our history, we have always been victims of suppressing the vote. Always trying to suppress the vote. Now we have the days of mail-in votes and voting online and alternative ways of voting than to get up and stand in line for hours.
Right.
the GOP, the Republican Party, over the last few years has tried to take away almost every convenience to make it hard to vote. So no water in line. Polling places are going to close at 5:00 p.m.
Right.
So those who get off work at 5:00, oh well. We're going to go ahead and consolidate polling places in the inner city. So instead of 8 places to vote, there's only 2. So those types of things were meant to suppress the vote, but they weren't forward thinking enough. Not to say trying to abolish the online voting, but they didn't care about online voting themselves. And so it left a lot of young Republicans. This is not their way to vote.
Right.
You know, election day, standing out there for hours is not the way to vote for young people. And I don't care what party you affiliate yourself with. So early voting, mail-in voting,
right,
those things which were trying to be labeled as fraud, is now the way that elections won. And so what we have right now is the state of Georgia has shown the conservatives that they need to campaign for that early vote. So the people can get out there, be aware, and vote early instead of waking up today and say, oh, I forgot.
Exactly. And I got to wait in line for 6 to 8 hours because people in Georgia were saying that. They were saying that they waited in line for several hours to vote, but they said we have to be here to make sure that our voices are heard. And you've seen that in a lot of places, though.
And I'm glad they did. Thank you. I'm glad they did. Because, I mean, vote matters.
It does.
The vote matters. And no matter what, has to be counted. And, you know, I've gotten into several conversations. It doesn't have to be about the issues that we have to disagree on. Whatever you feel, go vote. Go vote. And, you know, we'll let whatever happens, count them up. Now, I'm one of those that come from the competitive sports world. So there's got to be a winner. There's got to be a loser. You know, you beat me today, you might not beat me again tomorrow.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, when you have these donors who are donating X amount of dollars, you know, once their loser loses, the next thing you know, they're the victim, or excuse me, they're oppressed on Twitter.
So, and speaking of, let's talk a little bit about Twitter, because Twitter has just become a terrible place. It is literally the sewer. It is the bottom of social media. And exactly what you said. I mean, seriously. So I forget the study, but there was a study that was done that said that harassment, use of the N-word, use of expletives and insults against different ethnicities and sexual preference increased when Elon Musk took over. And as we've seen, Donald Trump's account has been lifted. There have been several. However, Kanye West was banned, and I'm not saying that he should or he shouldn't be, but I'm like, if you're gonna let the rest of the crazies out, why you don't let him have his time? And then I found this odd, Mr. Harp. So apparently there's this thing where you can parody someone's account. Elon Musk didn't like that because a whole bunch of people parodied his account. And so he blocked all of them or suspended their accounts. And I thought that was funny. And I said, oh, so this is about you. And finally, I got to add this point. He was at a Dave Chappelle concert, and I don't know if you saw it, and I just saw it yesterday.
He got booed. Yeah.
And he got booed. Okay, so go ahead, Mr. Harp, talk about it.
Listen, let's break it down into the real part.
Yes,
Real
please.
part. Elon Musk is rich.
Mm-hmm.
He's rich.
Mm-hmm.
For those who are not rich, he's untouchable.
Right.
You know, might know his name,
Mm-hmm.
might know what he look like,
Mm-hmm.
but he's the same thing as the Donald Trump. You just say Donald Trump and you say rich,
Right.
money.
Mm-hmm.
So Elon Musk, money.
Mm-hmm.
Now the foolish part is those of us who know a little bit more, dummy spent that much money on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a stupid move.
Right.
But now you got the company and you got to live with it. And
Mm-hmm.
when you bought Twitter, Twitter was already in the trash because of what Trump did to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, social media is what it is.
Right.
You know, people trash people everywhere. Donald Trump trashed everybody from the presidential platform, giving everyone who decided to trash people permission.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter was that vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk just bought that car.
Yep.
He bought a used car.
Mm-hmm.
and he bought a used car with all the trouble that come with it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good analogy.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's talk about your boy Kanye.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kanye caught up in this machine too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anything that touches Trump is going to falter.
Yes.
I've said this on your program before.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that Trump has touched has withered and died.
Yes.
Okay? Just a matter of time. He's rich. That's fine. But everything he touches withers and dies. And he takes everybody along with him.
Mm-hmm.
So Kanye done got too close to the flame.
You're right.
You know? Now, hey, Kanye up there haggling with the big boys, making shoes, making clothes, got everybody saying words that they couldn't pronounce before. Balenciaga. Is that how you say that? You know
what is I know. What is a Balenciaga? We didn't know what that was until he inked that deal, and we were like, oh, okay.
Right. You like Balenciaga? Where'd that come from?
Exactly. Exactly.
So now that you're saying stuff that you've never said before, Kanye is now about to lose everything he's got. Because he can't go around saying stuff like they can.
Right.
You know? I mean, I guess that money done made them a little, ignorant to that fact.
I think so. Kyrie Irving, she could have told him that too.
No. And listen, Kyrie got basketball money, so he rich too. But Kyrie's also a Muslim. And his Muslim, viewpoint and all of that. It's a slippery slope because, you got the Israel Jews and you got American Jews.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
They still Jews. But, it's a little different. It's a little different. So, those with the, the ability to own and control, hey, once you have that ability to own and control, the playing field's a little different. But because you in the social media presence, the game all comes down to the same exact thing. You need people.
That's right.
You need people. Once you have a commodity, you need buyers. And if you don't have buyers, then you might as well not have that commodity. And so, though we learned how to spell Balenciaga and say Balenciaga's hurting.
They are.
The house of Balenciaga has let this man come in and sully this European family name.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's going to, what's interesting is now to see how it rebounds. everybody has done everything now. There's nothing new under the sun.
That's
So
right.
now it's just about how we're gonna rebound.
Mm-hmm.
Because in this time of social media where everybody can see you fall real quick, how they gonna see you get back up?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if you do what I do sometimes, and you just scroll through YouTube. I see a lot of those. What happened to such and such?
Yes.
What happened to them?
Mm-hmm.
What? And I was like, whoa, they were just 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
How we gonna be unsung to somebody who was just 5 years ago?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Where are they now?
Right.
Like, my goodness, it ain't been 20 years.
I know, right? They were just out 2 years ago, and now you calling them a has-been.
Aren't they still playing a song on the radio?
Right. But they're like, nope, they're a has-been. Before we go to fitness, Mr. Harper, I want to touch on briefly police and violent encounters with citizens. So today or yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, Breonna Taylor's boyfriend finally settled with the city. And, they're still having lawsuits. There are still jail sentences. We're still, and I hate to say it, we're still learning from George Floyd. We're learning from Ahmaud Arbery. We're learning from Breonna Taylor. And I know, and it gets to a point, Mr. Harper, where we just keep going down the list. And we just had, because in Vallejo, California, the city just paid out to a citizen who was on his porch, who was filming a police encounter with someone else, and a police officer didn't like it and decided to come up on this man's porch and rough him up. And so now the city has to pay this man for his pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, wow. And then lastly, I just read today, someone was talking about getting on an airplane through Delta. And there was a gate agent who apparently didn't like Black people. That was according to what this gentleman said, because he said he was told it was too late for him to get on the plane, but the gate agent let a bunch of other people on the plane. And so some people were saying, oh, you were late. He was like, I wasn't late. And the guy, it was clear from the interaction afterwards, because the guy was covering up his name tag, that he just didn't want anybody to know. And the person, I guess, at the actual kiosk was like, yeah, that was racist. And so now Delta has circulated a
apology.
Of course, apology, and you can come out and all this and that. And then it reminds me, and I know there's a lot going on, and so I keep going. Mark Curry, the actor, was in Colorado, was sitting in a hotel, and a white gentleman went to him and said, are you a guest at the hotel? He said, well, who are you? And the guy wouldn't necessarily identify himself. And so he followed him, and Mark Curry said, I'm going to the bathroom. He said, you better leave me alone. I think he was staying in the hotel. It was Wyndham Hotel, but he was like, I'm sitting here. And I was telling a friend of mine, I said, the problem for Black people, African Americans, whenever we go out, we have this history that we used to dress up and we had to be presentable to go out. But
presentable to get messed with.
Right, to not get messed with. So even if you are a celebrity, a sports player, a doctor, a lawyer, a politician, whoever you are, you still have to have that look of, I belong. I can't just put on sweats or leggings because it's comfortable and I'm traveling and maybe I have to fly 12 hours. And I just need to be comfortable so I don't have a blood clot or something like that. No, I have to put a suit on and go the extra mile just so nobody will bother me. Talk a little bit about that, Mr. Harp.
Well, that was let me go back to the beginning of it.
Okay.
About still learning police brutality.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the movie Emmett Till came out this
yes, it did.
This year.
Mm-hmm.
And we talking 70 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got years and years of brutality,
Mm-hmm.
police brutality,
Mm-hmm.
years.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the George Floyd situation, as unfortunate as it was, please let me rephrase it, as unfortunate as it was, the beautiful comeuppance was that the police were found guilty.
Yes.
And charged and sentenced.
Mm-hmm.
Not just a slap on the wrist, not just disappearing into where are they now pages, you know, but these guys were definitely responsible in the eyes of the court. And that's a change.
Yes.
It's not something we would get too often. So that was a beautiful thing. The Breonna Taylor, it's taking this long, and it always does. Takes this long to settle.
Yes.
Kim Porter, Katie Porter, I forget her name, the cop who
yes.
shot
With
she was going for a taser and
yes.
actually shot. You know, so we got a little justice in that situation. Ahmaud Arbery, we got justice in that situation. So lately has been pretty good for justice.
Right.
However, you turn any news outlet on, you turn anything on in Chicago or Chirac, the worst city in America, according to many sources, because of Lori Lightfoot, the mayor, African-American mayor. Listen, what it boils down to, there's an old set of thinking, you know, where you did have to make yourself presentable to not be bothered, so that the police wouldn't bother you, so that the store owners wouldn't bother you, so that just somebody out on the street wouldn't bother you, you know. Now we've come a distance from those ways, but then we fell backwards because what we've done is now we just made ourselves even more identifiable as targets. What we've done now is, you know, we've taken a little, you know, chest out, chin up, you know, approach to this. Well, if I'm gonna be that, then let me go all the way. You know, so, you know, I was taught by my father, to always get a receipt, so that when I walk out of a store, nobody can say I stole anything.
Right.
You know, and to this day, yeah. Can I get a receipt? Yeah. You want a receipt with that? Yes.
Yes, I do. You know? Thank you.
And I want to make sure when I read it, it says exactly what I needed to say. Okay. And so that's how that works.
Yes.
No, but you know, listen, will things change? We're ever hopeful. But change is slow, change is hard.
Yes, it is.
You know, and unfortunately in 2022, white nationalism has creeped back up into, I mean, such a topic of conversation, to just use these words in a sentence several times. 2022 has become white nationalism, you know, and the threat again of white nationalism. You know? So 2022, as it comes to an end, you know, we need to get rid of these school shootings. The Uvalde situation was so horrible. Just so horrible, the way that the police did nothing.
Right.
You know, hopefully in 2023, we can do something with these guns. Or as a new set of Congress people come in, perhaps they can actually make some decisions on how to pass some gun safety reform laws. You know, as we're recording, Joe Biden has just signed into law the Respect for Marriage Act.
Yes.
So it just did that today. So he's trying to protect all forms of marriage.
Right.
And so we'll see what happens next, especially as, some winners and losers from this recent midterm election, where the Democrats still hold on to the Senate while the Republicans have the numbers for the House.
Yes.
However, just for those who are truly up on it, the next Speaker of the House has to have 218 votes to become the Speaker of the House.
He sure does.
Now, there is a Republican who has the majority.
Yes.
But doesn't have
the vote
218 votes behind him.
That's right.
There's a Democrat, Hakeem Jeffries, who is not in the majority, but has 218 votes behind him.
Yes.
So if he were to happen to get 218 votes while the Republicans go ahead and fight amongst themselves and scratch votes from each other, then a Democrat will become Speaker of the House.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Well, that would be a nice scenario.
Yes, it would.
That'd be a very nice scenario for a gentleman by the name of Hakeem Jeffries.
Yes. Yes. So, Mr. Harp, you gave a great analogy. You talk about how it's slow to transform things, to sometimes make progress. And I want to segue us into fitness, getting back to the basics. During COVID and the pandemic, Pelotons and all these fancy devices, tonal, all these things came out and people got really excited. They were like, oh, I can work out at home because I can't go to the gym. I can't go outside because everywhere outside of your home was dangerous. And now here we are 3 years later and people are like, ooh, I spent how much for this Peloton? Ooh, I'm having a yard sale or I'm selling it someplace. And people are just like, I had every intention of using it. I sort of did, but I really didn't. And now it's just a burden. And now I want it out of my house or, I can't afford to pay for it anymore because everything is expensive. Mr. Harp, talk to us about why gadgets like that are exciting and what do we really need to focus on when we're thinking about getting in shape or staying in shape?
Great question. First off, gadgets cost a lot of money. You can get a home gym. You can put all the effects of your $20 per month gym in your home. You can do all of that. But will you use it? Will you use it will the $20 per month give you an incentive to use it, or will not having to pay at all give you an incentive to use it? That's a good question. Okay. Pelotons, tonals, and I know those are brand names, but just at-home gyms, at-home fitness equipment. Great things, but you have to put the time in to use them.
Right.
Okay. A lot of us get buyer's regret. Of course, we got these things that we just don't use, and my goodness, it's out of fashion. I can't even sell it for what I paid for it.
Right.
We all get that. However, gotta use them. You can save yourself a lot of money. You don't need all of those machines, and to achieve your fitness goals. But I will say a lot of situations, a lot of external situations, a lot of extenuating situations. The pandemic. The pandemic didn't allow people to go out as much as they did, so gym memberships fell by the wayside. Getting in-home equipment, was a great idea. You never know how much you're going to be in home, and for those who would use it, great. But now there becomes, change is hard and it's difficult. Sometimes you have to now adjust to working out in the home. This isn't what I use my home for.
Right.
Working out in the, It's hard to wrap your mind around that thing sometimes. And where you're placing it, where you're going to put it, where you got to move. I got to move this. I can't do this. Where you going to put it for space? Becomes change is hard.
Yes.
Change is difficult. Again, some things you don't need in order to achieve your fitness goals. So the key is to move, be in shape, exercise, be happy with yourself. Okay? That's the goal. Now that the pandemic, and we find our way through the pandemic and we can get outside, we crave to be outside. So that in-home gym equipment is like, I'm trying to be out. So if you can go back to the gym, now you're going back to the gym. Now you're paying that $20, $30 a month, and that charge that's recurring coming off of your credit card doesn't seem so hard. However, I only went twice this month.
Right.
So now I'm paying whatever the gym bill is, and I have not going. And it's getting cold, in which I really don't think I'm going to start going. It's hard to
and it's dark outside. It's dark outside.
Dark when you wake up. It's dark when you get off work. Change is hard. But I really want to get something ready for the summertime. I got to get ready for the summertime. That's what we start doing. We start hanging our head in shame. We start saying, why did I do it this way? And then we start beating ourselves up. And so we eat and we eat. And then we hide ourselves in the food. And then we look up and we say, you know what? I'm at the same old thing, doing the same old thing, doing the same old thing. And I'm on that treadmill that I spent so much money that I never used.
Yep.
I understand. It's a hard cycle to go through. But because this is one of the toughest muscles to work with, gotta get in there. Gotta get in there and make some changes. So I would say get a partner. As 2023 is on its way, get a partner, get a friend, get a workout, brother, sister, cousin, someone. Teenage, if your gym allows it. Teenage and older children. And get in the gym and work out together. And I'm accountable to you and you're accountable to me. And if I don't feel like going on Tuesday, then you nudge me and say, Eric, get up. And I'm going to nudge you and I'm going to say, you better get up. So one of these things that we can work out together, and then hopefully we get on this train where, wow, I'm looking forward to it. I wake up and I'm calling you, hey, we working out after work.
Right.
Okay? You got your stuff? You calling me like, you got your stuff? You bring your shoes? You got a towel? You got some water? Let's make it happen. When it becomes fun. And it can become fun, and it doesn't matter what the weather is, because now you want to get up. That alarm clock. What alarm clock?
Right.
My body just wakes up. What are you talking about? I eat right. I'm going to sleep. I feel this. I feel that. So I don't sit in front of the TV as much as I used to. I'm not worried about the things like I used to be worried about. I smile more. I hold my head up more. Excuse me. A lot of the things that we can achieve without having to invest $3,500 into that latest piece of machinery that has a mirror and I can watch myself. So, some things are just fun.
Yes.
I'm not into promotions on your show. I know you're not into that, but those VR headsets.
Oh my goodness, yes.
There are some fun things in there.
Okay.
You get into a little space in your home. You just get it about 6 feet circumference. And it's amazing some of the things that you can do as far as exercising and moving. There's boxing. There's lightsaber type games where you have to swing. You'll play tennis. You can
Wow.
play table tennis. You can play baseball. So you get a lot of exercises by that swinging motion, the swinging motion of boxing, the uppercuts. And there's so many things, and you'll run in place. I mean, there's many things to do. I mean, the VR is just a fun environment. But as far as exercising inside your home, not a lot of equipment. The cost of the VR and the particular app, there is that cost, but it's yours. Again, there's no equipment needed, and there's so many exercises and fitness oriented things to do. So I recommend it. Again, I'm not into the promotions on your show, but I recommend it because for those of you who cannot get out of the house as much, whether it be commitments, whether it be, limitations, it is something to look into, and it's definitely cheaper than a lot of the equipment that you'll hang clothes on.
Right. Now, Mr. Harp, you had told us early in the year that we could use everyday household things like laundry bottles, water bottles. What did you say about that?
Well, a lot of your detergent bottles have handles. Once you finish with that detergent bottle, fill it up with some water and use it as weights. And you can curl just lifting that bottle. Okay, and there's different sizes. For those of you who get the big bleach, big laundry detergents, fill them back up with water and use them. Grab them by the big handle. There's lots of things that we can use inside of our house in order to work out. Some of us can just put a resistance band on a doorknob, and now you have a pulley. You have a pulling machine where you can now pull things towards you. Again, push-ups are great. You can, in many different instances, resistance bands is all you need. So listen, there's nothing that's impossible when it comes to fitness. Okay, it's not impossible. I know many people think that it would be, but it's not.
Right.
It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, and you'd be amazed at some of the things that your body will respond to.
That is good information to have because we can use technology to help us stay in shape. And then we can also use everyday household items to do the same. So whatever your budget, if you can afford to go out and buy some of these more expensive things, then great. If your budget is a little bit challenged, like many people, you can just use everyday items that you have around your house. Mr. Harp, we have come to the end of our show. It is December. It's almost January. Let me be the first to wish your family a wonderful Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and just hope that you guys have a safe and joy-filled holiday. Thank you for being on the Kim B. Davis Show.
Well, I return that to you, to the Davis family. I wish you all the best in the upcoming year. Happy holidays. And, I love you. And I look forward to continuing this in 2023. To all your viewers, to all your listeners, I wish you the very best in your fitness endeavors. And tune in.
Excellent. Now tell us how we can find you, Mr. Harp, and how
Eric
we can
Harp.
follow you.
My name is Eric Harp, ERICHARP, just like the instrument. You can find me on all your social platforms. And my email is ericharp9@gmail.com.
Excellent. Thank you guys for tuning into the Kim B. Davis Show. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn, TikTok, everywhere on social media. You can see this show on youtube.com/Kimberly Batchelor Davis. You can hear this show on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, and Wisdom. And you can learn more about me as an author at kimbdavis.com. Thank you again for tuning in. Happy holidays and have a wonderful new year. And we will see you in 2023. And don't forget, as always, be magnificent.